Tropical storm Erin is still strengthening and still forecasted to be a Cat 1 hurricane by tomorrow. Now, there is going to be a little bit of delay in its intensification as it goes towards the Leeward Islands. It's going to encounter the shear. Now, the shear is going to mess with it a little bit, where it's going to keep it a little bit on a slower path, where it's going to slowly drift a little bit to the west. But then still, it'll go to a very favorable environment, very warm waters, and still forecasted to turn into that major hurricane. Now, Erin did shift a little further south and a nudge to the west. So that is the latest updates on that. So we could see that nudging a little bit further to the west if it delays that intensification from that shear. Plus, we have Invest 98L over here. It has gained in intensity for a chance for something to form. Now a 40% chance in 48 hours. And it don't even matter, 48 hours could be hitting landfall by tomorrow. But it could see some winds as it starts getting some banding that goes along the coast of Texas. So we'll go along with that information for you real quick. And you can see all the thunderstorms going on across the U.S., but our severe part is over here towards the north as well. Now, this is going to be chances for tornadoes. It's going to be later on this evening. Until then, shows that we have a little bit of a cap. I don't think it's going to bust that cap until later on. Now, this brings chances for damage and winds, hail, even for tornadoes, and we have that threat for tomorrow as well, with a tornado threat as well. Latest update on Invest 98L. It is at 40%. Still showing a tropical depression could form by tomorrow as it moves onshore either through Mexico or through southern Texas. Regardless, still bringing some rainfall towards your area. Aircraft hunters did go through the system. They did find some winds on the eastern side of the system, but still no organization other than that. Showing the chances for a tropical depression all the way till Sunday, but you can see for the next 72 hours actually has gone up to a chance to 80% chance for just that tropical depression. Showing the latest on Invest 98L, more likely to be down here on the southern side in 24 hours, but still that would bring the center towards the southern area of Texas, and it'll bring some banding along the coastal regions of Texas. Definitely showing it will be a tropical depression, even a couple of them showing a chance for it to strengthen towards that tropical storm. Now, it could be tropical storm impacts, maybe get some strong banding, bringing some strong winds at the last minute as it starts intensifying. But whether it gets together and gets a center and storms all the way around it, that's a whole nother story. Showing by Friday morning that as this moves further towards southern Texas, the eastern side of the system will be the strongest still, and you could get tropical storm force winds, sustained winds of over 40 miles per hour, but still it won't be too organized where it would be strengthening up to a well-defined center and a well-defined storm. Showing it's going to push right off inland after it comes onshore and brings some banding and some winds. Showing that you could start getting some storms from tomorrow morning all the way into the evening for the coastal regions of Texas, maybe even reaching as far as southwestern Louisiana as you get that banding all the way through the afternoon. Then it'll start relaxing down through the night. Still showing anywhere around a quarter to a half an inch of rainfall, but there will be some areas that would be heavier, maybe get a quick 1 to 2 inches out of the banding. There is a flood watch that is in effect for far southern Texas. This is going to be from 6 a.m. tomorrow to 6 p.m. Now, latest on Erin, you do see they do have some tropical storm watches that are out, and in case this comes further towards the southern side, those would turn into warnings. But you can see here from National Hurricane Center that the new track is a little south than the previous track, and it did nudge a little to the west, everybody. Showing that the heavy rainfall across the northernmost Leeward Islands, the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, as well as southern and eastern Puerto Rico may lead to isolated flash and urban flooding, along with landslides or mudslides this weekend into early next week. Tropical storm conditions could also be put out for Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico later into this weekend, so you could be watches out for those areas as well. Starting to see a good agreement here that once it reaches 48 hours, more likely will be on that southern track, to be honest with you, with what I'm seeing with the information, and showing 72 hours could be way over here, 96 hours way over here. Now, you have the hurricane models going further towards that westward track. The more the shear hits that system, the weaker it's going to be when it tries to intensify, the slower it's going to intensify, and it will go further towards that west-northwest. The icon is seeing this as well. Matter of fact, what the icon is seeing is getting very concerning, everybody. But you can see once you go from that 3 days to that 5 days, it's just a wide spread, a very wide spread of where this storm could be. Now, the trend has always been that after the weakening high pressure will allow it to go further towards that west-northwest. But when we get that strengthening high pressure and it loses that tug from that trough, that it will go further towards that westward push. But then it would eventually weaken down, allow it to gain some latitude. I still think it's going to be somewhere along these western sides of these ensembles. I still don't think it would be close towards land, but we still got to watch it because the icon is showing some very close calls. Now you can see this with the European, that as we go 4 days out, right as it's passing the Leeward Islands, and as it moves by with that shoal wave trough, that the high pressure expands out and keeps expanding, and it stays on that west-northwest path all the way for 6 days. So in 4 days, this is where the European has this going, turning pretty good away from the Bahamas. When you go by the GFS is further towards the east. When you go by the latest icon, it agrees with the Euro and it's a little further towards the west. Matter of fact, this is a 12Z icon. The 18Z is out and it's showing more of a shift, showing that as it goes by the Leeward Islands, as you go into Saturday, because it's taking that nudge a little bit further towards the south, because it's gaining intensity a little bit slower because of the shear, that is drifting more towards that southwest, showing that you could get some banding reaching down towards the Lesser Antilles all the way towards the islands. So just be aware of that. This is the closest call that you possibly could get. The rest of them is showing further away, but I still think it would be on that southern end of that cone. Now this right here would bring more impacts of tropical storm intensity all the way towards Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, also for Dominican Republic potentially, but towards Turks and Caicos, towards the Bahamas, it gets really tight and really close because you still have that strengthening high pressure. And then it finally gets released once we go 6 days and gets pulled north because of those westerly winds, bringing it real close towards the coast. So we can only go 5 days on the update. So when you take the rest with the icon and go towards the 5-day marker, remember the icon did forecast barrel going towards Texas. This is a 12Z. Look at 18Z. It did shift a little bit more of a nudge towards that western side, everybody. Also showing on the latest hurricane analysis forecast system models, you see right here with A, as you go by for Saturday morning, it could bring those 30 and 40 miles per hour sustained winds as that comes across. Now with the hurricane models, that red is 40. That is not 50 or 60. That's 30 and 40 coming across, but it could be as high as 50, especially with the wind gusts. Showing it takes that westward track. You get that steady strengthening. The eye gets very small. And then it goes towards Turks and Caicos, and it still takes that western wobble and grows right there by the Bahamas. This is right at 5 days. And you can see the long range that as that transitions towards that west, it's following more of that icon traveling further towards the west, towards the Bahamas. Now this is where it's going to hopefully start making its turn and going away. Showing in the intensity models that it could be in 72 hours. It could get all the way up towards that Cat 3 hurricane, but this is where it starts encountering that shear. That's why I'm believing more of these southern sides, where it shows more likely will be that strong Cat 2 hurricane, where it slowly gets hit with that shear and slowly starts strengthening. Now they're saying that they're going with the Cat 3, the stronger side, because that's what the hurricane models are showing, that even though it's getting shear, it's still intensifying. Remember, the winds are going up and down, but it still grows. But at the same time, the hurricane models are not taking that very sharp turn. They're taking a little further towards the west. Now, the aircraft hunter is still in there for Erin, and it's going to take a while before that finishes. And this video will be posted probably before they even get done. But still showing all that unfavorable environment after Erin, these other tropical waves are going to have a lot of problems trying to form. Now for the rest of today, you can still see some isolated thunderstorms in any of this green area. You do have the chances for the tornadoes in case those storms build up later this evening. I'm seeing that it could be a problem with a cap, but so far here's your cities and states at risk for a chance for a tornado for today. You also have the damage and winds that could come along with this, and you have the big 5% as well. So here's your cities and states at risk for damage and winds for today, and a hail threat, which could grow into 2 inches in diameter on the hailstones from that tail that could form or could not form. It could be a cap, everybody. But so far, here's your cities and states at risk for possible hail threats. Showing the latest run with HRRR that as that comes by, it could see a cap, and it has an issue getting any thunderstorms going. Maybe far northern Minnesota, you could get a cell that comes through. Now, any cell that comes in this atmosphere will bring chances for large hail, and it could whip up a quick tornado. However, it's looking very weak. Then as these storms keep coming around all even long from the four corners coming across for the north central, as you go through for tomorrow, it's going to come right back again, bring you some strong storms through for central Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, across the Dakotas, Nebraska. You also get some storms brewing for the four corners as well as this comes around, bring some strong winds with it, and maybe even for Michigan as you're going through for Saturday and more storms. So far showing Saturday could bring some damage and winds with that. That might have even an embedded cell in there, a chance for a tornado, but eventually it will turn into damage and winds going through Wisconsin for Saturday morning, and then it could turn into a cluster of storms after that. I will keep you updated. But so far for tomorrow, you can see an isolated thunderstorm in any of this green area. Your chances for your tornadoes will be with that banding. So here's your cities in Minnesota at risk for a chance for a tornado. And obviously you can see this is going through Wisconsin and some of the UP as well. You also have the wind threat for tomorrow, including a 5%. So here's your cities and states at risk for damage and winds for Friday. And you have the hail threat in the same locations. And for Saturday, they just have a big glob of a 5% chances for damage and winds, chances for hail. But I think we can see an isolated tornado threat as well. I will keep you updated. So far, here's your cities and states at risk. And that is your latest weather update, everybody. So thank you again for your time. I appreciate every single one of y'all. I will see you first thing in the morning for the update and see if this keeps nudging south and west a little bit at a time. Remember, if you just move a little bit here, it could be a big area down the road. Been cutting my grass all day, so yes, I am sunburned. Before I go, some quick words from our Father, everybody. Proverbs 15:13 through 17. A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart the spirit is broken. The heart of him that hath understanding seeketh knowledge, but the mouth of fools feedeth on foolishness. All the days of the afflicted are evil, but he that is of a merry heart hath a continual feast. Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith. Amen. Have a great evening, everyone. If you're in the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, even in the Greater Antilles, pay attention. If this goes a little bit further south again and further towards the west, as sometimes that happens when it gets sheer and is trying to strengthen, I will keep you updated. Make sure you watch out for possible winds getting even closer, and especially for the landslides and mudslides. I'll see y'all in the morning, everybody. Remember, all glory always goes to God, our Father in heaven, Yahweh. And I always hope he keeps you safe every single day of your life and forever. Amen. Hallelujah. Amen. Have a great evening, everybody. I'll see you in the morning.